The paintwork is of high quality and has good resistance to mechanical damage. Despite this, it will not be difficult to find chips and scratches on the body of 5-7-year-old specimens. But finding red spots on the body, even on cars of the first years of production, is not an easy task, since the metal resists the red disease very well. An exception to the rule are cars restored after an accident. Of the minor troubles, only the tendency to corrosion of the aluminum bases of the mirrors can be distinguished. If the problem is not corrected in a timely manner, the mirrors will stop folding. When operating a car in megacities, parts of the exhaust system are rapidly covered with rust. Since the car has modest ground clearance at the bottom of the bumper and there may be signs of damage or repair on the thresholds. Among the shortcomings of body equipment, it is worth highlighting the unreliability of the sealant of the optic seam. It dries up and passes moisture at the junction of the acrylic cap and body. It is worth noting that replacing the headlight unit is not a cheap pleasure. There are no new original headlights for sale, and for a used one they ask from $200. The windshield, soft and thin, is also not famous for its durability, which not only quickly rubs off, but is prone to cracking. Buying the original glass will cost $350–400, and analog from $100. Not too successful in door handles, or rather their opening cables, torn. On older specimens, lock mechanisms may jam. At the most inopportune moment, the wipers may stop working due to a failed one of the trapezoid position sensors. Reliability of engines. Volvo S60 II. The second-generation Volvo S60 has a fairly wide range of power units consisting of gasoline and diesel internal combustion engines. Petrol, 1.6, B4164T, 2.0, B5204T and B4204T, 2.5, B5254T, 3.0, B6304T and 1.5 liter EcoBoost B4154T. Diesel, 1.6, D4162T, 2.0, D5204T, D4204T and 2.4, D5244T. The stock gasoline internal combustion engine, 1.6, has capricious fuel equipment. Nozzles get clogged. Submersible gasoline pumps serve little and are prone to overheating. After overheating, at best, it breaks through the cylinder head gasket. At worst, it leads the head. The electromechanical coupling for connecting the water pump, the module, and the fan motor do not please with reliability. After 5 years of service, it can wedge. It is also worth noting the sensitivity of the engine to the quality of the lubricant. If you pour anything into it or delay it with maintenance, the efficiency of the variable displacement oil pump quickly decreases, and this is fraught with scoring on the crankshaft and cylinders. Quite common for this motor are cases of piston destruction at low mileage. Another of the minuses is the tendency to coke the throttle valve. It needs to be cleaned every 40–50,000 kilometers. If the throttle is not cleaned, the engine control system will go into emergency mode. Since a too-dense radiator sandwich is used here, it needs to be washed 3–4 times a year. It clogs quickly. The 4-cylinder engine with a volume of 2 liters, B4204T, like the stock one, does not like bad fuel and oil. If you often refuel with cheap fuel, the injectors, fuel pump, and fuel pressure regulator will not last long. The use of low-quality oil leads to the rapid occurrence of rings and the appearance of a progressive oil burn. Common ailments include ever-jamming swirl flaps in the intake. The electric throttle is also not famous for its reliability in case of malfunctions in which the idle speed begins to float. Closer to 200,000 kilometers, you need to be ready to replace the timing chain and phase regulators. Another representative of the Ford family is the 1.5-liter EcoBoost series unit. The engines of this series are famous for their tendency to coke injectors, and the formation of soot on the valves leads to leaks. In addition, this unit must be filled only with high-quality gasoline. Otherwise, increased detonation will lead to the destruction or burnout of the pistons. Among the vulnerabilities is the electric coupling of the cooling system, the failure of which leads to overheating with all the consequences. Also, even a slight contamination of the radiator sandwich can become the cause of overheating. Another disadvantage is the low quality of the turbine nozzles, but the turbine itself lasts a long time. Motors of the modular engine family, B5204T and B5254T, are considered less problematic. The main complaints of the owners of these engines are caused by increased oil consumption, treated by cleaning the crankcase ventilation, and a short service life of the fuel pump, thermostat, and supports. There are also periodic failures in the operation of the internal combustion engine control unit and sensors. Another known engine problem is oil leakage from the defacer. The timing drive uses a belt with a declared resource of 120,000 kilometers, but in practice, it does not always last that long. It is recommended to change the belt closer to 90,000 kilometers, since in the event of a break, a fatal meeting of pistons with valves is inevitable. There are no significant problems with the 3-liter B6304T engine. Among the shortcomings of this internal combustion engine, one can only single out an increased oil appetite, an ever-flowing vacuum pump, and a gasket in the area of U200B, the timing chain cover. Also, bearings and gears, an oil separator. By 100,000 kilometers, the rubber membrane wears out and a whistle appears from under the hood. A pump block and power steering, located on the same shaft, are not famous for their margin of safety. Diesel. The fuel equipment is considered the most problematic place of the Volvo S60 diesel internal combustion engines. Piezo injectors are especially capricious, which do not always withstand even 100,000 kilometers of run on our fuel. Also, you should not count on the problem-free operation of the USR valve. It quickly cokes and hangs. It is treated by cleaning. The stock engine, D4162T, also has a die-ick must be monitored after 60,000 kilometers, since when it breaks in the engine, the rockers break. Of the less significant drawbacks, the tendency of internal combustion engines to leak oil and antifreeze is noted. In the 2-liter D4204T engine, the rubber pipes of the turbocharger most often require attention. Oil seals and valve cover gaskets do not differ in reliability. They allow lubrication. Closer to 150,000 kilometers, the particulate filter and intake manifold make themselves felt. The timing drive has a belt that needs to be changed every 120,000 kilometers. The 5-cylinder D5204T and D5244T have not very successful hydraulic lifters, which, when using cheap oil, begin to knock by 100,000 kilometers. Another problem area is the fuel rail regulator valve. The ribbed belt also requires special attention because when it breaks, it is pulled under the timing belt. It is also necessary to monitor the cleanliness of the swirl flap unit and the crankcase ventilation system. It is recommended to check every 30–40,000 kilometers. The resource of diesel units is 400–500,000 kilometers. There are 3 types of gearboxes to choose from: Volvo S60, 6-speed manual, Aisin TF80SC, TF80D automatic, and Getrag 6 DCT 450 robot. A manual transmission is considered trouble-free, but is found only in cars with a stock 1.6 engine and a diesel engine. Things are not bad with the reliability of the Aisin hydrochanical machine. The main disadvantage of automatic transmission is the tendency to overheat, which is manifested by the appearance of jerks when shifting gears. On cars with a mileage of more than 100,000 kilometers, jerks can signal malfunctions in the operation of the valve body due to severe oil contamination. If, when the first symptoms appear, he immediately contacts the service, it will be possible to get by with cleaning with a slight repair of the valve body and replacing the gas turbine overlay. Another disadvantage is the tendency to corrosion of the aluminum heat exchanger and the unreliability of the connection fittings. They are destroyed. The presence of an ailment can cause leakage of antifreeze. More serious breakdowns appear closer to 200,000 kilometers. The torque converter clutch wears out, slip and vibration appear, solenoids, Teflon rings, and gaskets. After 200,000 kilometers, the valve body, oil pump, and brake band require attention. As for the mechanical part of the box, with proper maintenance, it can withstand more than 400,000 kilometers. The Getrag 6 DCT 450 MPS6 robotic gearbox is the most problematic in the lineup. The main disadvantage of the robot is the high operating temperature, which the cooling system does not always cope with. Adds problems to the rapid contamination of the oil by friction and clutch wear products. If you rarely change the working fluid, other elements of the box will also wear out intensively: gears, shift forks, synchronizers, main clutch, oil pump, etc. If we talk about common breakdowns, then most often the owners are faced with rapid clutch wear and mechatronics failures, which quickly fail when the solenoids are heavily contaminated. Less common cases of failure of the electronic transmission control board. Often the reason for the rapid wear of robot parts is improper operation of the transmission, long downtime without turning off the gear, for example, in traffic jams, and long-distance trips at a speed of 140 kilometers per hour and above. In most cases, expensive repairs of the RCP have to be done closer than 150,000 kilometers. With frequent lubricant changes and careful operation, you can extend the life of the robot up to 250,000 kilometers. Four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions of the Volvo S60, the rear axle is connected using a Haldex multi-plate clutch. In general, the clutch is reliable, but requires regular maintenance, a lubricant change every 30-40,000 kilometers. Also, during operation, you need to monitor the condition of the anthers of the CV joints, the universal joint, and the oil level in the gearboxes. Despite the premium status of the second generation Volvo S60 and the use of independent suspension, the chassis turned out to be quite tough. There are also complaints about the reliability of some of its elements. So, for example, the rear shock absorber supports make themselves felt after 50,000 kilometers. They begin to knock when driving over bumps. Wheel bearings do not last much longer either. If you do not slow down on broken sections of the road to 100,000 kilometers, thrust bearings will make themselves felt. The rest of the suspension parts, depending on the loads, average 120-150,000 kilometers. In the steering system, a rack and pinion mechanism of the EUR is used. The steering is considered the most problematic part of the car. So, for example, an electric pump rarely withstands more than 100,000 kilometers. A signal of a pump malfunction will be a tight steering wheel and the presence of a hum when turning the steering wheel. The steering rack does not live much longer. First it starts to knock, and then it flows. But there are at least complaints about the brakes. Brake discs serve 40-60,000 km. Pads can last up to 150,000 kilometers. Of the minuses, one can note the uneven wear of the pads on the rear axle, the tendency to souring of the calipers. If they are not serviced, they wedge, and the unreliability of the wiring and mechanisms of the hand-brake electric drive. Thanks to the use of high-quality finishing materials, the Volvo S60 interior, even after 200,000 kilometers, does not have significant signs of wear. Among the shortcomings, one can note the tendency to pollute the leather of the seats. The problem is especially acute on cars with a bright interior. If the condition of the skin is not monitored after 100,000 kilometers, small cracks appear on. Another place that needs attention over time is the front console. Over the years, it begins to make extraneous sounds. The disease is treated by sizing its panels with vibration isolation. Among the interior equipment, the air conditioning system most often fails, in which a rumble appears by 100,000 kilometers. There are several reasons for the disease: failure of the clutch bearing or expansion valve, and its tube. In a car with a sunroof, it is imperative to monitor the condition of the drainage holes and periodically clean them. Removal of the front left pillar trim is required. If the drainage is not cleaned over the years, water will enter the cabin, which will lead to electronics malfunctioning. There are errors in terms of electronics, although they are not as critical here as those of representatives of the German automotive industry. Most often, failures are minor and do not entail serious consequences. For cars with a keyless entry system, malfunctions in the onboard systems may be caused by insufficient tightness of the door handles. Let moisture through. Also, the cause of incorrect operation of the electronics can be a faulty battery or generator. There may be failures in the operation of the regular multimedia system, which are eliminated by flashing. For cars with an indication on the gear selector, appeared in 2014. The cable for connecting the selector module breaks over time. The selector needs to be replaced. Often the wiring of the rear view camera also fails. At the moment, the purchase of the second-generation Volvo S60 II looks quite tempting, as the car is reliable, well-equipped, and has a sane price tag from $9,000. However, when choosing this model, you should avoid versions with Ford engines and a robotic gearbox. It is also worth considering the fact that this car is very demanding on the quality of service and not cheap to repair. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.